So we finally figured out what everybody been talking about leading up to this. Roseanne obviously removed from the show for controversial comments made on Twitter a few months back, which ultimately led to her ouster or her leaving on her own accord the show. And this is how they killed her off. So what do you guys think? This is an interesting start to the sitcom. Do you like how this was handled first and foremost?
Yeah, so I did watch. I think that I am okay with the storyline. Some of the acting was a little spotty for me.
Even just in that clip, you could tell.
It's a very, well, actually, those were the two of the better actors who were attached to the show. They're award-winning.
Okay.
But it's some of the other ones, like, it felt a little forced. Yeah. Like, they're really packing a punch with so many issues. I feel like when we watched the original Roseanne, it was like, okay, we're going to tackle this main issue as a family. Versus now, like, we got opioids and being gay.
Can I throw something at you?
Sexuality of children. Like, it's so many issues.
As I watched it yesterday and everybody thought that they were tackling, maybe they're right, but I kind of went the other way. While everyone was zigging, I was zagging in how I interpreted what we saw there. How they killed Roseanne off, they talked about opioids. And everyone's like, well, last year they were talking about the election and Trump, and they're tackling a very serious issue. I disagree. I think this was a shot at Roseanne. Because if you remember when Roseanne made the controversial comments on Twitter, she blamed it on medication. Not opioids, but she blamed it on medication that she was on and said she didn't truly feel those things. To me, I kind of thought that this was taking a dig at Roseanne by saying, hey, we'll use meds as a way to kill her off, or a way to kind of give her a little bit of a jab, poke the bear.
Yeah. So?
I could be wrong, but when I was watching it, that's what I thought was going on. Not that this was going to be a stance taken on something that's plaguing the nation. This was to poke the bear at Roseanne a little bit.
Yeah, like you're saying, to me, that's a tonal dissonance. Like, to have this be like tackling this huge issue where it was originally sort of presented as an insult to Roseanne in the way that she was going.
And again, I could be wrong. That's only really speculative.
Weird. And maybe that's just because Roseanne spoke out about it and was saying that she was upset that that's how they were doing it. But to me, there's just something that feels weird about that.
Yeah. I don't think that that's what they were trying to do. But it was interesting. I think that I will continue to watch. I would
does
like
it have
to
staying
see
power, do you think?
where it's gonna go. I would like to see where it's gonna go and its potential. I will give it on a scale of 1 to 10. Maybe I'll give it a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't even rate.
7's pretty high.
I wouldn't even rate the first episode because, and I wouldn't rate it because I think that they were forced to address this in the first episode. So it's hard to get a feel for what the series is going to look like with Life Without Roseanne, because the whole thing about this episode, which was good for them, was, hey, tune in to see how Roseanne's going to die. They had to kill off Roseanne. Now that they've done that, okay, now where are you going to go? What's the substance and what's the content going to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will say I applaud the writers as well as the actors because, you know, Roseanne always had those zingers. So anytime it was getting extremely serious, it was broken up by humor. Yeah. And that's something we need to remember with life. That's a good life lesson.
And you mentioned the acting, that you didn't really care for some of the acting. That was, again, Roseanne could be the one who covered and masked all that. She's this mega talent, this big comedian, this big personality, and you watched it for Roseanne. There's no Roseanne. Where they go from there, we shall see. In a recent interview, singer Meghan Trainer revealed she's not sending out invitations to her wedding, but rather she's going to go the text messaging route. She claims people might not check their mail, but everybody checks their text messages. How do we feel about the lack of formality here from Meghan Trainer? Because I think she's just trying to cut a couple corners financially. And it's a guy going through it.
I don't think Meghan Trainer needs to cut corners. She might not be the biggest pop star, but she's a songwriter too, so she writes a lot of the pop songs that we listen to. But back to the wedding invitations. I don't really see a problem with this. I mean, I always just check the website anyway. I think it's always nice to get a paper invitation in the mail. It's cute to put it on the fridge if it has a picture of the couple or something like that. But I mean, sometimes you lose them. Sometimes you don't end up bringing it to the actual wedding. You got to check a website anyway. So I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Just hope everyone's organized enough to put it in their calendar.
I'm going to try and propose this to my fiance.
Jordan and I just went through this. I told him, you don't have to worry about sending me an invitation. I know how expensive and annoying it is. Now I got to send back the RSVP card. I don't even know where the post office is.
You said you're not going to eat anything either, right? You don't even need a seat at the table?
Okay, give me chicken. Right? Put it down for chicken.
You and Teddy don't need anything. We'll just show up. Cool.
Chicken and fish.
I'll try and figure the rest out from there. It is expensive. And I guess the bigger question for me, as we talked about this one earlier this morning, is I think it's something to be said about tradition going away with weddings entirely. I think this stuff is slowly starting to erode away with what you should do. I mean, think about birthday parties. When I was a kid, the birthday party invitation that would come through the mail was like, it was a big deal. It was, how were the parents going to structure that invitation for birthdays? That's gone away. Weddings, different, entirely different realm. But I just feel like as people start to be more financially conscious and they're starting to see that, hey, maybe this is how our grandparents, this is how our parents did it, but I'm trying to save money. You look at home ownership and how that's declining. I think we're going to get to a place in the next 10 years where how weddings are treated and what's expected and what makes it a classic one as opposed to non is going to be completely different.
How much do people spend on wedding invitations? Just curious.
Mine were probably around $600-700.
It can be expensive.
That was me being cheap. I ordered them online. I designed them myself. Like that was me taking the cheaper route.
And that's a cut above average. I think average people would say it all depends.
Nothing average over here. So
but you called it cheap. I wouldn't call it cheap. I'd say it's above average. I was trying to do you one better there. What it comes down to is weddings are expensive.
Yeah.
And I think any way that you could try and make that number decrease, kudos to you. Nobody's going to judge Meghan Trainer and say, oh, Meghan sent text messages. They're going to be happy they're going to Meghan Trainer's wedding.
I emailed save the dates, and then I did send out some paper invitations, and some people did get a text.
There you go.
Yeah.